seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. I look into the eyes of the devil. I ain't at the God of the devil.
I remember I was only 13 when I met the demon. Gave me a deuce and a bundle of cocaine. Told me to sell to my people, make sure you keep them cleaning. If any try to show you, make sure that you leave me leaking. He said,
I'ma hold you down when problems pop up.
how you got me moving this dope? Want me in lock up? He said,
Don't you want the Benz vertical with the top gun?
Yeah.
Stop, bitch, get in that kitchen, let it rock up. Bitches love the dope boy, especially when it's pop up. I know you know why.
put a plug from by the block up.
I'll tell you a little secret, make sure that you keep your mouth shut. Brian got a Lexus, crib in Philly in Texas. Tripped up Bahamas, Scotland with for his mama. You fucking up the commas, be honest, you seen decent though.
I hear you, but I just seen Ron about a week ago. Fat, he ain't looking too good. His knees is kinda slow. I asked him why the struggle, he got stuck up for his bundle. But them 6 hour tips in his legs what made him crumble.
Bitch, he got a house, mama is living good.
Said the fans took it all, he right back in the hood. I see you try to play me, you gave us crack in the 80s. Made us support our babies and making hoes out of ladies. I know you got me gravy, but Satan, you must be crazy. It's gonna take more than cars when to amaze me. I seen niggas shoot for the stars, but being lazy. Never get their head at the clouds, so you don't face me.
I guarantee that you won't regret it, remember I said it.
Nah, you could dead.
What you saying, I can't win?
Nah, devil, nice try, so until we meet again.
I ain't at the die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. We seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil. I ain't at the die to meet the devil. I ain't religious or superstitious. But we been getting fucked up to the side like a mistress. Police patrol the mob because prison became a business. They murder one of ours and they start talking about forgiveness. We think that it's alright because we got public assistance. If this ain't hell, dog, what is this? Where was all lives mattered when they killed Osama? There was no peace talk like the Dalai Lama. Bush dropping bombs saying he gon' bring the drama. They got justice, man, they even called the Boston bomber. But when we ride, they send the military in armor. When we fight oppression, then our people die martyr. You reap what you sow, some people call it karma. With Christ's return, y'all gon' get this harvest like a farmer. Don't tell me don't bring up the past no more. They still trying to settle the score with a side of Shakur. I changed my life, and I'm just trying to live life right. But at night I look behind me and see flashing lights, patting me down. You got nothing that's holding me right. I don't smoke or push pills, I gave up my vice. So Mr. Officer, why you wanna take my life? And your honor, why you gave a homeboy's life? I've been wondering, why you shot a homeboy twice? Pussy with a gun screaming out that he got a knife. He came from my baby's spot, it was chicken and rice. Shit's tripe, I'm just making visuals like Skype. As Trayvon, Mike Brown, a Todd Gurley, Eric Garner, Sean Bell, Philando, Olden, Sterling, Jaquan McDonald. The white man is so devilish. Ask Hammurabi, he'll tell you who the devil is. The white man is so devilish. Ask Hammurabi, he'll tell you who the devil is. I ain't at the die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. We seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil. I ain't at the die to meet the devil. I ain't at the die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. We seen the rise of the devil.
Hey, shalom, 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 Israel. Yahweh Shem Yashai Barakatham. To all the brothers, Yahweh Shemar Alathan, Bashim Yashai, to all the sisters. I'm Priest and Officer of 50 Shar Yawan, under Commanding General YAHANNA. We are the I.S.U.P.K, which was started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. All right, we're going to get started. Tonight is Tuesday's night Brotherhood class. All right, Tuesday night Brotherhood class. Every Tuesday, men of the Lord in the I.S.U.P.K are teaching Brotherhood to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We're teaching Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans how to treat each other according to the Bible, how to be good brothers to each other according to the Bible. And when I say good brothers and good brotherhood, that's synonymous with sisterhood. All right? These laws, statutes, and commandments that we read about in the Bible, they teach us how to be good brothers and sisters to each other. They teach us how to treat each other. That's what this whole book is about. How a whole nation of people can come together under the Most High and deal with each other righteously. All right. Again, Tuesday's night Brotherhood class. Make sure you hit that sign-in link. If you're tuned in, hit the sign-in link. Make sure you get attendance. So we can take that attendance. All right. This is No Cowards Canada. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can hit us up on Facebook. I believe our Periscope is still live. Twitter. All right. If you're tuning in from a different region, no sweat. Again, make sure you sign in. Like, share, subscribe. You can also find a school near you. All right. I.S.U.P.K is all over the world. Make sure you find a school near you and get in contact with the brothers in the school. All right. Learn how to be a good brother. Learn how to be a good sister. See what the Brotherhood and the I.S.U.P.K is about. All right. So tonight's topic, all right, you're following No Cowards Canada. Last night was our history class with Priest and Officer of 500 Zabadia, who did an excellent job breaking down what Thanksgiving is about and the history of it. All right. Again, I'm going to touch on Thanksgiving today, but I'm going to get into brotherhood. I'm going to get into why the laws of the Most High are important when it comes to brotherhood and sisterhood, and why we shouldn't celebrate holidays like Thanksgiving. All right? And you find out what happened to some of our brothers and sisters during this time, you'll find out that it is not a brotherly or sisterly thing to do to celebrate Thanksgiving. All right? During this time, for our Native American brothers, a lot of them, this is a sad time, as it should be for blacks and Hispanics as well. All right, this is a sad time. This is a time when our oppressors came over to this land and conquered us, killed our brothers and sisters, murdered our ancestors. Right? This is not a good time to be memorializing or remembering or giving thanks to. All right, and whatever else that they taught us Thanksgiving was about. A lot of us in Canada were told this idea that Thanksgiving is a time where the early settlers, the early French settlers, early Spanish settlers, it's a time where they came over here and broke bread with the Native Americans, the indigenous people of this land. And they tell this fairy tale of everybody was getting along and eating all this dinner together and feasting and having a good time. And that's the history that our oppressor taught us. That's the history that the devil the Bible speaks of taught us. And the I.S.U.P.K, we teach that the oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. And the reason we call him a devil, all right, we call him a devil not because he has white skin. We don't call him a devil because he has blue eyes and blonde hair. All right. We call this oppressor a devil because of the lies that he tells. This devil told us that Christ was a white man with long stringy hair. This devil taught us that he had blue eyes and he had some feminine features to him. Right? This devil lied to us about our history, of who we are, where we descend from. This devil lied about Thanksgiving. They painted this picture of everybody was breaking bread and having this good time. Meanwhile, in history, He was going around murdering our brothers and sisters, murdering them, conquering them, pillaging them, killing women and children, pushing them off their land, stealing their resources, enslaving them. Right? You read about the story of, I think his name is Paquantus or Paquanto. I'll get into that as we go on in the class. But this brother, Native American brother, he came over with French settlers. He came over with French settlers and helped the French to make a treaty with the indigenous brothers. The reason he came over here was so that he could speak the language to the indigenous brothers and sisters. Now, the only reason he came over, you got to understand something. In history, again, this devil lied to us about our history. We had natives coming over from Europe who were slaves. You understand? This devil had indigenous slaves, Native American slaves, over in Europe, or what is now known today as Europe. And he brought his slaves over so that they could interpret and help colonize and help conquer this land. Brought slaves over so that they could speak the language and interpret different things that they were trying to communicate back and forth with these devils. You understand? And to all you Christians and fake Israelites who like to say that the Native Americans are not the children of God, are not the Israelites the Bible speaks of, they fit the curses just as we fit the curses. You got to ask yourself, if you did come into the truth and come to the understanding that blacks are the children of God, that blacks are from the tribe of Judah, the only way you were able to understand that is because of Deuteronomy chapter 28. You read through those curses from Deuteronomy 28 verse 15 on, all the way down through verse 68. You read the curses. You read about the ways in the Bible that you would be able to identify the children of God in the last days. And that's how you came to the conclusion that blacks were the children of God. Well, it's no different for the Native Indians. It's no different for our Gadite brothers, our Native American brothers, our indigenous brothers and sisters. We're able to read through those curses and we understand who the children of God are according to those curses. The same way that blacks fit the curses, or the same way Hispanics fit the curses, or the same way our Native Indian brothers fit the curses. It's no different. We all went through the same thing. You understand? So with that said, this devil taught us lies about Thanksgiving. They taught us lies about the origins and the history of it. And what we're going to do today is break down some of those lies and get into brotherhood. Get into why it's important to keep the laws of God, why it's important to obey the Most High and do what he says, and see how that helps our community. See how these laws, statutes, and commandments teach us how to be good brothers and sisters to one another. That's what all of these laws are about. All right? I'm going to break some of that down today. So moving into the class, we're going to start off. I got a couple articles. We're going to skim through them. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm going to skim through it because I want to jump into the scriptures. All right? But some of this information is important, all right? So that's today's class. Let's get to it, all right? I'm going to share my screen. We're going to start off in this Greek god known as Demeter. All right? And the reason I'm starting off here is because This is the origins of Thanksgiving. All right. This is what Thanksgiving was about. All right. Matter of fact, it might be better to start off. We're going to start off here in Thanksgiving in Canada. All right. This is the Canadian Encyclopedia. And the reason I like to use this site in our classes because, again, this is No Cowards Canada. This is the Canadian school, and we're more geared towards what happens to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Canada. All right, that's our job here in this school. Not to say that we don't touch on worldwide events, because we absolutely do. We talk about it. But our main focus, what I like to focus on, is here in Canada. All right, what we were taught here in Canada, Canadian news, what the Canadian government has to say about things, right? Because this is what we're living in, right? So starting off, let me zoom in a little so we can see my screen better. All right. So this is an article from the Canadian Encyclopedia. All right. You can look up this page on your own. It's called the Canadian Encyclopedia. You can type that in on your Google machine. It will pop up. All right. It's a very common website. So what the Canadian Encyclopedia has to say about Thanksgiving, it says the first official annual Thanksgiving in Canada was celebrated on the 6th of November, 1879. Though Indigenous peoples in Canada have a history of celebrating the fall harvest that predates the arrival of European settlers. Sir Martin Frobisher and his crew are credited as the first Europeans to celebrate a Thanksgiving ceremony in North America in 1578. They were followed by the inhabitants of New France under Samuel de Champlain in 1606. The celebration featuring the uniquely North American turkey, squash, and pumpkin was introduced to Nova Scotia in the 1700s and became common across Canada by the 1800s. In 1957, Thanksgiving was proclaimed an annual event to occur on the Monday of October. It is an official statutory holiday in all provinces and territories except Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. Right, and this is a little picture they have up. You can see a pumpkin. They got pumpkin, squash, potatoes, yam. I see some apples in there. Right, a lot of these vegetables here, a lot of this food right here. These are different starch foods, right? And the reason they have these different starch foods is because during this time, right, during this autumn time, you call it autumn or fall, right? This is a time where a lot of these vegetables come in, and these starch foods, they help fill your belly, right? If you cook some potatoes, some mashed potato, or eat some yam or whatever it may be, right? These foods will help fill you. And a lot of these foods, you're able to store for a long time, right? And they would eat these foods because these foods they're able to store for a long time, and it would help them get through the winter, right? This is why they have these different types of foods always showing around this time, right? You can store pumpkin, and that will help get you through the winter, you and your family through the winter, right? Squash, yam, potatoes, it's all the same thing. They'll help get you through the winter, right? And so this is why they like to call this festival, or the origins of this festival, a harvest festival. It's a time of harvesting food and storing it for the winter time, right? So we're going to keep going. It says, origins and history of Thanksgiving in Canada. Indigenous peoples in North America have a history of holding communal feasts in celebration of the fall harvest that predates the arrival of European settlers. The Smithsonian Institute has noted that some First Nations sought to ensure a good harvest with dances and rituals. The European settlers brought with them a similar tradition of harvest celebration, which dates back to European peasant societies, right? So again, this is what Canada likes to teach. Canada would have you think that our Indigenous brothers and sisters were celebrating some harvest, some fall harvest, where they were dancing and banqueting and celebrating, feasting, having this big holiday. And they would have you believe that these European colonizers that came over, these French colonizers that came over, were celebrating the same thing, celebrating something similar. And in doing so, oh, we're just going to come together and we're going to join this festivity that we have. And everybody's going to get along, sit at some big table and sing and dance together. This is the story that they would have you believe. Right? Really think about that. We know, according to history, that the French came over here and colonized this country. They kicked the Native Americans off their land and pushed them into reserves, pushed them into poor living conditions, forced our Native American brothers to live at the bottom of a society. Nobody was holding hand in hand, singing Kumbaya, singing and dancing together and having some big feast. You devils came over here and conquered this nation, conquered our people, conquered the children of God, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Nobody was holding hands and dancing together. Right up until 1980, you still had residential schools going on. You had residential schools open over in Brantford, Ontario. And everybody knows, because of this news over the last year, about all the horrors that went on these residential schools. Nobody was singing and dancing and holding hands. All right? These devils came over and colonized our people, conquered our people, murdered us, gave us smallpox, mass genocide. It's in the history that over 70 million Native Americans were murdered, killed, died of either disease or murder. You understand? This was not a good time for Native Americans. Nor is it a good time today for Blacks, Hispanics, or Native Americans. You understand? You can see in the news today, Native Americans fighting for their rights. Native Indians fighting for their rights in Canada. Fighting for land rights. Fighting for these devils not to run pipelines through their water supply. Fighting to have clean drinking water on the reserves. Fighting to be considered a human being. Doesn't the United Nations say it's a basic human right to have clean drinking water? You devils are spending millions of dollars to fly into outer space. Meanwhile, you can't have clean drinking water for the Native Americans in Canada. You understand? let's keep going on with this article, right? Because I want to bring out is that what is the real history of Thanksgiving, right? I'm going to read this again. It says, Indigenous peoples in North America have a history holding communal feasts and celebration of the fall harvest that predates the arrival of European settlers. The Smithsonian Institute has noted that some First Nations sought to ensure a good harvest with dances and rituals. The European settlers brought with them a similar tradition of harvest celebrations, for which the symbol was the cornucopia, or horn of plenty, which dates back to European peasant societies. So now they say our indigenous brothers and sisters that they had some fall harvest that predates the arrival of European settlers. However, the European settlers, they brought a tradition of harvest celebrations for which the symbol was the cornucopia. All right? The cornucopia. What is the cornucopia? What is the cornucopia? Right, gonna share my screen. This is what they call the cornucopia, right? You see a lot of this imagery and baskets, right? You see a lot of this today because this cornucopia represents something. It represents something that goes against the Most High. This whole harvest festival that these Europeans were celebrating, this has to do with pagan worship, worshiping pagan gods. All right? And this goes against the Most High. All right? This absolutely goes against the Most High. Right? So what is this cornucopia? I'm going to read about the god Demeter, or the goddess, this Greek god known as Demeter. Demeter was the Olympian. Let me make my screen bigger. All right, so hopefully everybody can see that better. So it says Demeter was the Olympian goddess of agriculture, grain and bread, who sustained mankind with the earth's rich bounty. She presided over the foremost of the mystery cults, which promised its initiates the path to a blessed afterlife in the realm of Elysium. Demeter was depicted as a mature woman, often wearing a crown and bearing sheaves of wheat or a cornucopia. Cornucopia is a horn of plenty and a torch. This is where the cornucopia comes from. All right? This has to do with the Greek Olympian goddess of agriculture. All right? This is what the Europeans were celebrating. This is who the Europeans were worshiping. All right? And that goes against the Most High. All right? Let's bring out some Bible verses real quick. All right, let's start off in the book of, let's go to Deuteronomy. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. It says, "And it shall come to pass If thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. You understand? This is Moses speaking to the children of Israel. And he is telling blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that they need to observe and to do all the commandments that the Most High gave us. All right? Not one of the commandments, not the 10 commandments, not the commandments of Jesus. You understand? All the commandments. You understand? The Christian church would have you believe that Jesus had separate commandments from the Most High, and only the commandments that Jesus said to keep are the commandments that we're to keep today. You understand? There's no 10 commandments in the Bible. Christianity is a lie. We have hundreds of laws, statutes, and commandments when we read this Bible. And blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are required to keep all of them. You understand? And that's how we would be placed on high. The reason we're at the bottom of society is because we don't listen. We don't do as the Most High commanded us. The reason we're living in reservations and barrios and ghettos all over North and South Central America is because we are not above all nations. We are below. We are at the bottom of society. You understand? This is why we need to come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. Right? And what are one of the laws of the Most High? Let's get it. All right, Salakia. Pull up my Bible. What are one of the laws of the Most High? Let's jump to the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 20. Exodus 20 and verse 3. This is the book of Exodus chapter 20 and verse 3. And it says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Don't do it. If you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are not allowed to have other gods before the Most High. And what do we just read about this Greek goddess, this Olympian goddess that those European settlers were worshiping? They were worshiping another god. If you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are not allowed to do that. You understand? We read in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1, if we would do all the commandments, that we would be placed on high. Well, we are not allowed to worship other gods. We are not allowed to worship the god of harvest. We are not allowed to worship an Olympian goddess known as Demeters or Demetrius or whatever his name is. You understand? The reason we're in this situation that we are is excuse me. The reason we're in the situation that we are is because we don't listen. We chose to put other gods before the Most High. You understand? And millions of Black, Hispanic, and Native American households did that yesterday. If I'm not mistaken, Thanksgiving in Canada was yesterday. You've been watching the I.S.U.P.K. We've been warning Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Stop celebrating these feast days. Stop celebrating these holidays. Stop celebrating Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, and Halloween. Stop worshiping all these other gods. Your Christian pastor is leading you into a ditch. What does the Bible say? Even though the blind leading the blind, they both shall fall into a ditch. These blind pastors are leading you into a ditch, leading you into your grave, leading you into a place where you go to die. The I.S.U.P.K is giving Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans life. We are warning our people like good brothers do. You love your brother, you don't let them fall. You warn them about the danger that's coming. You don't let your brother go off and run into the middle of a road when a car is coming. You don't lead him into a ditch. You don't lead him to his death. You grab his hand and you pull him away from that speeding truck on the highway. You pull your brother away from the hot stove. That's what being a good brother is. The I.S.U.P.K has been warning our people since 1969. Do not celebrate Thanksgiving. Do not worship other gods. Do not worship the god Demeter, that goddess of harvest and fertility, and Ceres and all these other Greek gods that these Europeans worship. This culture is bad for us. The ways of our oppressor are bad for us. This oppressor will have you believing that it's okay for a man to lay with a man and a woman to lay with a woman. It's okay for a man to dress up as a woman. It's okay to worship other gods. It's okay to smoke cigarettes. It's okay to smoke weed. This is what Canada teaches you. And all of this goes against God. All these things that Canada teaches you from the day you're born in this society, all these things are bad for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You understand? Deuteronomy 28:1 said, to observe and to keep all the commandments, all of them. Don't eat pork. Don't eat crab. Don't go into that Canadian grocery store, you understand, and buy shrimp, crab, or lobster. These things go against the Most High. And these things are destroying your life. All right. Let's drop that and let's keep going into these articles. All right. Because as we see this oppressor worshiping other gods, they also lied to us about, they gave us this fairy tale of our Native American brothers holding hand in hand with these European colonizers and giving thanks on some glorious day where everybody's getting along and dancing and singing together. All right, that is a lie. That is a lie. That was a lie from the devil himself. Matter of fact, let's grab that verse really quick. Let's go to the book of John chapter, I think it's John chapter 8 and verse 44. Right? Because again, we don't call this oppressor the devil because he has white skin. We call this oppressor the devil because of who he is. Right? This is the book of John chapter 8 and verse 44. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning. You understand? This devil was a murderer from the beginning. You understand? That same spirit Cain had in the beginning is the same spirit that this devil carries today. He is a murderer. He murdered our indigenous brothers and sisters. men, women, and children, so that he could have this land. This devil doesn't have a land. This devil doesn't have a home. His home is in the caves, the Caucasus Mountains. That's why he calls himself Caucasian. He is a cave dweller. He has no home. He has no land. So he goes around with the sword, killing everybody. Not just killing people, killing everything in existence, destroying the land, destroying the animals, destroying the earth. 9/11 happened, and I think there was near some 2,000 people killed. This devil went over to the Middle East, dropped a bomb, and killed millions of men, women, and children. You understand? This man is a murderer, and he was a murderer from the beginning. And the father of it. Nobody kills better than this devil. You understand? It says, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. Native Americans were not holding hands with their oppressor. They were not holding hands in hands when these colonizers came over during this harvest or fall time. Our Native American brothers and sisters wanted to be left alone in peace. Matter of fact, they didn't even mind you coming on this land. They were showing you how to harvest this land so that you could live on it just as they were living on it. They weren't trying to oppress you or murder you or kill you, because they're a passionate people. We are a compassionate people, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We don't think the same way as this devil. He is a murderer and a liar. There is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own. You understand? For he is a liar and the father of it. That's John 8 and verse 44. He is a liar and the father of it. When he lies, he's speaking of himself. He is a liar. That is why he is a devil the Bible speaks of. He does nothing but teaches lies. Right? Got an article I'm going to share so that we can read about more of the accurate history of what was taking place during this time. All right. It says the real story of Thanksgiving explained by Susan Bates doesn't have quite the same fuzzy feelings associated with it as the one where the Indians and Pilgrims are all sitting down together at the big feast. We all need to learn the painful history of Thanksgiving so we do not live in lies. What did she say? Learn the painful history of Thanksgiving so we do not live in lies. You understand? This oppressor is a liar and the father of it. Abraham Lincoln proclaimed the day of Thanksgiving in 1863. The federal government declared the last Thursday in November as the legal holiday of Thanksgiving in 1898. However, the meaning of Thanksgiving for Native Americans is filled with painful history, which has been covered up with the Pilgrims and Indian story. Most of us associate the holiday with happy Pilgrims and Indians sitting down to a big feast. And that did happen once. The story began in 1614 when a band of English explorers sailed home to England with a ship full of Patuxent Indians bound for slavery. They left behind smallpox, which virtually wiped out those who had escaped. By the time the Pilgrims arrived in Massachusetts Bay, they found only one living Patuxent Indian, a man named Squanto, who had survived slavery in England and knew their language. He taught them to grow corn and to fish and negotiated a peace treaty between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag Nation. At the end of their first year, the Pilgrims held a great feast, honoring Squanto and the Wampanoags. All right? So what does it say about this brother named Squanto? He taught them to grow corn and to fish and negotiated a peace treaty between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag Nation. All right, let's jump into a quick scripture. We're going to jump to the Apocrypha. All right. If you don't have it, buy yourself a 1611 King James Bible. All right. 1611 King James Bible has the Apocrypha in it. Slovakia. First Ezra chapter 8. We go first chapter 8 and verse 54. Slovakia. I don't think it's 54. I think I want 84. Right? This is the book of First Ezra, chapter 8 and verse 84. Therefore, now shall ye not join your daughters unto their sons. You understand? We were commanded to keep and observe all the commandments of the Most High. You understand? It is a commandment. It is a commandment not to join our daughters unto their sons. All right? This is what the Bible says. Interracial marriage is against the Most High. Interracial marriage goes against God. And interracial marriage is not brotherly. What does it say in the book of Titus? Titus told his son, be a good brother. Be a good brother and take a wife of your own tribe. Marry a woman from our nation. Marry a daughter of Zion. Titus told his son, be a good brother and look after our sisters. You understand? Marrying a woman is a job. You understand? It's a job to look after our sisters, to protect our sisters and guide them. Isn't that what every other nation does? Protect their loved ones. That's our job as men. It's our job as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to protect our sisters. Protect the women and children. Go to war for them if necessary. You understand? That's our job. The I.S.U.P.K, you get in this school, you marry your brother in the I.S.U.P.K, that man will die for you. He will die defending you. That's his job. That's his order. That's his command. To keep the laws, statutes, commandments of the Most High and love our sisters. Not to throw our sisters away. It's a disgusting thing to hear these brothers talk about, oh, I'm done marrying our Black sisters. I'm done marrying our Hispanic and Native American sisters. They're too loud. They're too out of order. They're too this. They're too that. Therefore, I'm going to throw them away and deal with a woman from another nation. You understand? That's a disgusting thing to do. It's our job as men to get in order and to do what the Most High commands us to do. Not to throw our sisters away. And vice versa. You're a sister, you need to marry a man from our nation. You sisters going around talking about how you want to marry a white man and the white man's better, or Salakia, an oppressor's better, this and that. That's a disgusting thing in the eyes of the Most High. Right? I'm going to read that again. It says, therefore now shall ye not join your daughters unto their sons, neither shall ye take their daughters unto your sons. Interracial marriage is against God. If you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are not allowed to date a woman or to marry a woman, Salakia, outside of the race, outside of the nation of Israel. And all of us got to get in order. You sisters got to learn to close your mouths and submit to your husband. How to shema in the Hebrew, to hear, to listen, to be quiet. All of us got to get in order. All of us have a job to do. All of us got to learn how to be good brothers and sisters to each other. You understand? This is what the Most High wanted for us from the beginning. The Most High told Adam he found a suitable helpmeet. He found a woman who was from his ribs, bone of his bones, flesh of his flesh. You understand? What does that mean? It means he found somebody from his family. He found a woman from the same nation of people. You understand? This is how it was from the beginning. And this is what we're commanded to do. We're commanded to be good brothers and sisters to each other. Right? I'm going to keep reading. Verse 85. Moreover, ye shall never seek to have peace with them. Salakia. Again, it reads, verse 85. Moreover, excuse me. Excuse me. Moreover, ye shall never seek to have peace with them. You understand? Moreover, furthermore, additionally, you are not allowed to marry a woman outside of your race. Furthermore, ye shall never seek to have peace with them. This is a commandment from the Most High, not to seek peace with these other nations. What does it say that Squanto did? Let's read that again. He said in the article, it says, he taught them to grow corn and to fish, and negotiated a peace treaty between the pilgrims. You understand? Squanto did something that went against the Most High. Squanto negotiated a peace treaty with the devil. Squanto negotiated a peace treaty with his oppressor, with his slave master, with the people that oppress his people. It's interesting that every Christian pastor is telling you God loves everybody, that we need to unite, and everybody needs to get along and join hand in hand. Everybody's welcome in my church. Everybody can congregate with us. All colors, all nations. Now, I.S.U.P.K, if you are not Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you will never get into this school. You will never congregate with us. You will never fellowship with us. You will never hold hand in hands with us. You won't be at our feast days, our Passover, our holy days, because we understand that we will never have peace with you. What does it say in the book of Jeremiah? Our people were seeking peace. It says peace, peace, when there is no peace. There is no peace with these people. These people try to heal the daughters of Zion slightly. They try to give us some National Indigenous Day. Give us some Black History Month. They tell us they're sorry for the things they've done. You understand? They tell us things will be different. That today is not like yesterday. We're not the same people. The Bible says that there is no peace with these people. You understand? And we are commanded not to seek peace with them. Let me read that again. Verse 85 says, moreover, ye shall never seek to have peace with them, that ye may be strong. The Most High is commanding Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to be strong, not to be weak, to be strong men, to have a strong nation, to have a strong foundation, strong household, strong brotherhood, strong sisterhood, not to make peace with these other nations, not to make peace with the devil, not to negotiate a peace treaty. There is no peace with these animals. You understand? And the Most High understands that. That's why he's commanding us to love each other, commanding us to love ourselves, to love the Most High, to love our brothers and sisters. You understand? Not to throw our brothers and sisters away, but to marry one another, to have families with one another, to grow and build and bond with one another. Not to seek peace with these animals. Squanto tried to negotiate a peace treaty, and look at where the Native Americans are today. You understand? Thanksgiving is not some flowery time for our Native American brothers and sisters. Nor should it be a good time for Blacks or Hispanics. You understand? We are all the children of God. We are all the Israelites the Bible speaks of. And there is no peace with these animals. There is no getting along with these devils. And Commanding General YAHANNA understands that. Commanding General YAHANNA follows Christ. He follows the Most High. You understand? Let's keep reading with this article. It says, but as word spread in England about the paradise to be found in the New World, religious zealots called Puritans began arriving by the boatload, finding no fences around the land. They considered it to be in the public domain. Joined by other British settlers, they seized land, capturing strong young natives for slaves and killing the rest. But the Pequot Nation had not agreed to the peace treaty Squanto had negotiated, and they fought back. And that's what we should be doing. You understand? We shouldn't have sought peace with these animals, but we should have went to war with these people. And the Most High told us that if we would do as he said, he would go to war with us. Understand? Matter of fact, let's grab that verse. In the book of Leviticus, I believe. Slovakia. Salakia. About the book of Exodus. The book of Leviticus. We'll go Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus 26 and verse 7. Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 7 says, "And ye shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword." This is what the Most High wants for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. For our enemies to fall by the sword. If we would do as the Most High commanded us, we would have the power to defeat our enemies. The power to go to war and conquer our enemies. Defeat those that try to destroy us. The Most High is the greatest weapon of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And the only way we're going to get him to fight for us is when we obey him. When we do as he commands us. He commands us not to make peace with these devils, not to make peace with our enemies. Commands us not to have interracial marriage. If we do that, he would fight for us. We would stop worshiping these other gods, the god of Demetrius or Demeters, that Olympian goddess. Stop worshiping and celebrating Thanksgiving. He would fight for us. Right, let's keep going with the article. The Pequot War was one of the bloodiest Indian wars ever fought. In 1637, near present-day Groton, Connecticut, over 700 men, women, and children of the Pequot tribe had gathered for their annual Green Corn Festival, which is our Thanksgiving celebration. You understand? I'll read that one more time. The Pequot War was one of the bloodiest Indian wars ever fought. In 1637, near present-day Groton, Connecticut, over 700 men, women, and children of the Pequot tribe had gathered for their annual Green Corn Festival, which is our Thanksgiving celebration. You understand? You celebrate Thanksgiving. If you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you hate your people. You hate the children of God. You hate the Israelites. You understand? Thanksgiving has nothing to do with us. And for a lot of us who understand history and understand what took place surrounding this holiday of our oppressor, we understand that this is not a nice time. This is not a good memory for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Where is the compassion that we're supposed to have for one another? Christ commanded us to love our neighbors as ourselves. You got to sit down for a second and ask yourself, would you like it if you watch 700 people from your tribe, from your family be murdered? Men, women, and children? Would you like that? How would you feel? Would you be okay watching your daughter, your wife, your sister, your brother, your cousin? Would you like it to watch them being murdered by the hundreds? So then why would you celebrate Thanksgiving? Where is your compassion for one another? This is what Christ was teaching. To gather together. To gather the two sticks together. Bring the northern and the southern kingdom back together. The 12 tribes of Israel. To unify the brotherhood. And to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. To have compassion on one another. To have pity on one another. Having pity is a good thing. Having compassion on one another is a good thing. Not to sit here and eat some turkey in the name of the murder of your brothers and sisters. Not to sit here and eat a turkey in the memory of your oppressor's Greek god. They're different goddesses, and gods. To celebrate their feast days, celebrate their holidays, and spit on the graves of your ancestors. That's disgusting, man. And God will not be with you if you continue to keep these holidays. Right? I'm going to keep reading this article. In the pre-dawn hours, the sleeping Indians were surrounded by English and Dutch mercenaries who ordered them to come outside. Those who came out were shot or clubbed to death, while the terrified women and children who huddled inside the longhouse were burned alive. In the pre-dawn hours, the sleeping Indians were surrounded by English and Dutch mercenaries who ordered them to come outside. Those who came out were shot or clubbed to death, while the terrified women and children who huddled inside the longhouse were burned alive. Cheered by their victory, the brave colonists, these were not brave men, and their Indian allies attacked village after village. Women and children over 14 were sold into slavery, while the rest were murdered. Boats loaded with as many as 500 slaves regularly left the ports of New England. Bounties were paid for Indian scalps to encourage as many deaths as possible, following an especially successful raid against the Pequot in what is now Stamford, Connecticut. The churches announced a second day of Thanksgiving to celebrate victory over the heathen savages. During the feasting, the hacked off heads of natives were kicked through the streets like soccer balls. Even the friendly Wampanoag did not escape the madness. Their chief was beheaded, and his head was impaled on a pole in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where it remained on display for 24 years. The killings became more and more frenzied, with days of Thanksgiving feasts being held after each successful massacre. George Washington finally suggested that only one day of Thanksgiving per year be set aside, instead of celebrating each and every massacre. You understand? Thanksgiving is a disgusting thing. Thanksgiving goes against the Most High. Thanksgiving is a terrible memory to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And we got to stop celebrating these holidays of our oppressor. We got to stop joining ourselves to this oppressor. You understand? His way of life is bad for us. His way of life is destroying our people. And we got to come out of this, got to come out of his ways. You understand? This oppressor that's over us is an animal. He is a murderer. He was a murderer from the beginning. You understand? And the Most High understands who he is. He understands the nature and character of this devil, which is why he told us not to make peace with him, not to negotiate peace treaties. Right? I'm going to share one more video. One more video, and then we'll jump right into some scriptures, all right? We'll end the class with some scriptures. We got one more quick thing we're going to share. This was an article, if I'm not mistaken, came out today. I believe it's right here. Yeah, this is an article that came out 23 hours ago. It came out on the Canadian Thanksgiving. And this is just a quick interview. Quick interview from the devil the Bible speaks of with an Indigenous sister.
A tradition during which Canadians gather to eat and count their blessings. Some say it's time to rethink how it's celebrated given its colonial history. Jacqueline Romanoff is an associate professor in Indigenous Studies at the University of Winnipeg. Professor Romanoff, good to have you on the program. I know you don't speak necessarily on behalf of all Indigenous people, but perhaps you can walk us through the discomfort that you understand some Indigenous people have on this day.
I think it's fairly common, certainly with a lot of younger people. I mean, when you look at what Thanksgiving is celebrating and the sort of typical story of the symbols that were given, about early settlers having this, almost mythical dinner on this land, this first dinner to sort of celebrate the harvest. Basically, it shows a very non-Indigenous view, I guess you could say, of what was happening. It makes the early sort of early colonialism look very peaceful and almost like Indigenous people kind of voluntarily handed over the land and resources over to the new arrivals, which is generally quite a whitewash in what history was actually about for Indigenous people.
Because it ignored the violence.
There's basically, right? I mean, early colonialism was about forced displacement. It was about violence. It was about, we're in the pandemic now. Indigenous people faced all kinds of disease that wiped out, some say up to a third of the population, if not more at the time. So it was really quite a traumatic time in history where there was a lot of suffering, misery. Nowadays we're talking more about it in terms of genocide, in terms of how Indigenous people experience that history. So it's not something we're particularly likely to be thankful for.
You've talked about sort of the way in which it might now be framed or perhaps be claimed by the Indigenous community, and this is in the context that long before there was a Canada, there was some version of a harvest feast in advance of winter setting in, but after the crops, the things that had been grown for sustenance were made available to a larger community. What's the sense that you have about how this might be framed today to recognize that pre-Canada Indigenous history?
Right. I mean, I think there are a lot of Indigenous people that do this, right? That sort of falls in terms of their culture, not just in opposition to colonial Canada, right? Indigenous culture, although there's certainly many different ones across Canada, but many of them share basic principles like this idea of relationships with all my relations across the land. Now that would include the soil, the rocks, the land, the trees, right? Everything in the ecosystem that we have as our relations, and that we exist because of our relationship. So the gratitude for everything that the earth has given us to survive for that year, gratitude for having those that we love around us, gratitude really, and renewal, I guess, of thanks again for a new cycle to be starting again. So those are sort of traditional Indigenous values that will be born in and around a time like this, prior to the arrival of the Europeans.
So,
I mean, sort of going back to this notion, what are things that can be within the diversity of Canada's Indigenous peoples? What perhaps might be done in a concrete way on this day to recognize those long-standing traditions?
One quick thing I'm gonna say, you notice that is that this woman has been sitting here talking about some of the atrocities that have happened to our Native American brothers and sisters, and this is the second time that this man has asked, "What is it we can do to celebrate this Thanksgiving and commemorate some of the good traditions?" You understand? This is what the devil that the Bible speaks of does. He likes to speak smooth words. He likes to speak like he has peace in his heart. Likes to say peace, peace when there is no peace. He's sitting here trying to talk about how Thanksgiving, how can we focus on the good of Thanksgiving? How can we celebrate this feast day and remember what happened before colonizers? Happened before all this bloody massacre. And you're going to notice that this woman is staying focused on the things that have happened. Why? Because that's what's important. What's important is all the evil things you've done to our people. What's important is that you guys were playing soccer with the heads of our Native American brothers. You guys were lynching our people, burning the women and children alive, killing us and giving thanks for your victories. That's what happened. That's what Thanksgiving is about. There is nothing good about Thanksgiving for Native American brothers and sisters. Absolutely nothing. And if they want to celebrate or give thanks to the Most High for some of the crops that have come in, so be it. You can do that every day of the week. You know, face east and thank the Most High. Not worship some Olympian goddess of fertility, some Olympian goddess of harvest. We don't need to be worshiping other gods. We need to be worshiping the Most High. Leviticus 23 gives us our feast days, gives us our high holy days. Not the oppressor. You're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you shouldn't give a damn about Thanksgiving. You shouldn't give a damn about the customs of these other nations. They want to worship some Greek god, let them do it. They want to commemorate the murder of our Indigenous brothers and sisters, let them do it. But if you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, Do not gather with your family. Do not gather with people, your loved ones, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your grandparents, your aunties, your uncles. Sit up and have some big feast or some big turkey in the name of some Greek god, in the name of your oppressors' holidays. These things go against the Most High, and these things are disgusting. All right, let's finish out this video.
Well, it would be nice. I know some of our neighbors to the South United States called today. It used to be Columbus Day. Now they recognize it's Indigenous Peoples Day. And so for Canadians, I'm sure they should be thankful. And thankful for a lot of things, but one of the things that they should be thankful for is for having, our democracy, this great life, all the land and natural resources. Really, that was Indigenous land and resources, and that in cases across Canada, Indigenous people, in stories, all across this country, we hear stories of how Indigenous people really reached out and helped the new settlers in this country how to adapt to the ecosystem, how to learn to hunt and fish in this type of setting, and help set up. The early economy was the fur trade economy, which was again built on Indigenous labor. And then the next, you had the agriculture economy, which was built on Indigenous land. So the non-Indigenous Canadians have a lot to be thankful for to Indigenous people.
Because Canada has such diversity and welcomes hundreds of thousands of newcomers every single year. How do you address the nuance of the traditions and experiences that they may have from their home countries, the traditions that they're now learning to come to Canada? How do you strike that nuance in the context of today?
Everybody's going to be coming with their own culture and their own stories. Sure, but here they are coming to Canada, a country that we embraces newcomers. But that history comes from Indigenous people, right? And I think that everyone, regardless if they're arriving on this land today, or whether they arrived, their ancestors arrived 200 years ago, there still is that should be that understanding that Canada inherently, I guess you could say, is one of the founding nations of this country, owes a debt to its Indigenous people.
Professor Rob, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Certainly appreciate it.
Right, that's it on that. But our brothers and sisters understand today what Thanksgiving is about. You understand? They understand what Thanksgiving is about. They understand what took place 200 years ago in Canada. And it is not a good memory. It is a traumatic memory for our brothers and sisters. You understand? So let's jump into some scriptures, because again, this is Tuesday's night brother class. And it's important that we learn to be good brothers and sisters to each other. The scriptures say to rehearse righteous acts. We got to practice these righteous acts. We got to practice being brotherly. We got to practice being sisterly. We do that by following what the Most High commanded us to do. We do that by getting in the school of I.S.U.P.K and learning how to be a good brother and sister to each other. Learning how to keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Right? I.S.U.P.K, we teach the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. We teach you how to follow Christ. We teach you how to follow this Bible. Right? We're not skipping over verses. We're not skipping over lines. We're not reading you half of the book, a quarter of the book. We're reading the whole book and telling you what is required of you. Right? So let's get through some of these scriptures, right? We're going to start in the book of Psalms. We're going to go to Psalms chapter 10 and verse 5. Right? We got to understand who this devil is. who this oppressor is that's over us. The Most High understands his character. The Most High understands his nature, which is why he gives us laws, statutes, and commandments to protect ourselves. Gives us these rules and guidelines and instructions and wisdom so that we know how to carry ourselves. Christ said, be wise, slack and paraphrasing. We are sheep amongst wolves, and we need to be as wise as a serpent and as harmless as a dove. You understand? We got to be ready to strike. We got to be ready to go to war at a moment's notice. And understand that we're around a bunch of wolves. We're surrounded by wolves. We're surrounded by people who are trying to devour us. People trying to destroy us. So it's a commandment to be wise. It's a commandment to be wise. It's an order. It's an instruction. Be smart. Don't be stupid. Don't be silly. Get counsel from the men of the Lord and learn how to operate in this life. This is the book of Psalms chapter 10 and verse 5. It says, his ways are always grievous. Whose ways are always grievous? That's our oppressor. The oppressor's ways are grievous. The oppressor will tell you to celebrate Thanksgiving. Like that devil just said, what can we do to celebrate Thanksgiving? What can we do to remember this day? What can we do to memorialize this day? Regardless of the murder and the massacre that happened to your people. That's grievous. That's not a light thing. That's an oppressive thing for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to have to do. It's an oppressive thing to tell Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to celebrate the day that your ancestors were murdered. Our oppressors come out with movies like Roots. The generation before me had to grow up watching Roots and The Color Purple and live amongst these devils, live amongst these animals. That's an oppressive thing to do. Our oppressor is very proud. It says that all over the Bible. You understand? Edom is a proud man. Edom is the oppressor, according to the Bible. His biblical name is Edom or Idumea. And he is very proud. And his ways are grievous. His ways are oppressive. It says, thy judgments are far above, out of his sight. For all his enemies, he puffeth at them. What does it mean to puff at them? He's prideful. He's very proud. He puffs his chest out. You understand? Our oppressor is very proud. And his ways are very oppressive. That's why we call him the oppressor. That's why we call this place our slavery. Right? Let's drop that. Let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 55. What do I want? We go Psalms chapter 55 and verse 20. Psalm chapter 55 and verse 20 says, he hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. What did our brother Squanto do? Our brother Squanto tried to make a peace treaty with that devil. Tried to make a peace treaty with his oppressor, his slave master. The Caucasian man. He tried to make a peace treaty with him. What does Psalms 55 and 20 say? He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. Meaning the people that try to be at peace with this devil, he puts his hands on them. You understand? He destroys the people that try to be at peace with him. He murders the people that tries to be at peace with him. He kills the people that try to be at peace with him. Which is why we got to be wise out here. We got to be knowledgeable. We got to fear the Most High and obey him. Read this Bible. Be taught this Bible from men of the Lord. You understand? Even Christ's disciples, the disciples understood. They said, how can I understand the book of Isaiah unless I be taught? Unless a man teach it to me. And those brothers had the Holy Spirit. You want to learn this Bible, you got to be taught. You got to have a man above you. Somebody that watches over your soul, that guides you, that teaches you how to obey Christ, how to obey the Most High. What's this verse say again? Verse 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. You try to be at peace with this devil, he's going to put his hands on you. And it says, he hath broken his covenant. Squanto made a peace treaty with this devil. And what did that devil do? He broke his peace treaty. He broke that peace treaty and murdered thousands, millions of Native Americans, men, women, and children. What does this verse say? He hath broken his covenant. This is what this devil does. He breaks his covenants. He doesn't keep his covenants. Native Americans made damn near, 177 treaties with this devil. And this devil has broken every single one of these peace treaties. Every single one of the covenants our indigenous brothers made with these devils, they broke. What does the Bible say? He has broken his covenant. He doesn't keep his covenant. He doesn't keep his word. This oppressor is a slimy bastard. Salakia for my language. It is a slimy devil. You try to seek peace with him, he will break his covenant. He'll break his covenant and put his hands on you. Break his covenant and murder your families, murder your loved ones. Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. That's what this devil does. Christianity would have you believing that some talking snake, some talking animal convinced Eve to do something against the Most High. Let me tell you, Christianity is a fairy tale. The spirit of this man, the spirit of that serpent who was in the garden, the spirit of this devil, his words are smoother than butter. He'll convince you to celebrate Thanksgiving and worship his God. He'll convince you that Thanksgiving had to do with the indigenous brothers and sisters holding hands in hands with them as they came over here. Everybody was singing and dancing and having a good time. giving thanks for the harvest that came in. That is a lie from the devil. His words are smoother than butter. He is a snake. He is a slimy, conniving snake. He is the father of lies. He was a liar from the beginning. That is the nature of these people. And the Bible tells it to you over and over again. You fake Israelite groups trying to run around to save your oppressor. You do not understand who your oppressor is. You do not understand who this man is. Obadiah says that they are going to be slaughtered. All of them, everyone from the nation of Edom, for the crimes that they've committed, for all the lies, all the murder against the children of God. They broke 177 treaties with the indigenous brothers and sisters and slaughtered them, murdered them, oppressed them to this day. It says, but war was in his heart. Let me read that again. Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. You understand? War is in this devil's heart. Not peace, not love. War is in his heart. This man is a snake. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. You understand? There is no trusting this man. There is no making peace with this man. We got to understand, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians got to understand that North America is not your rest. It is not your place of peace. This is your oppressor's place of peace. Your oppressor gets to look you in the eye and be proud about all the murder that he's done to your people. As he sails out in his yachts and his jets, his private jets and his private airplanes, and lives deliciously in his kingdom, off the backs of your hard work, off the murder of your ancestors, off the oppression of your people. War is in this man's heart. And there is no peace to be had with these people. Understand? Let's drop that. Let's go to the book of Baruch, chapter 4 and verse 3. Going back to the Apocrypha. Baruch, chapter 4. Slakia, Baruch chapter 3 and verse 4. Baruch chapter 3 and verse 4. And it reads, verse 3, for thou endurest forever, and we perish utterly. Salakia, is that the verse I want? Salakia, I'm reading verse 3. Baruch chapter 3 and verse 4. Verse 4 says, O Lord Almighty, thou God of Israel, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you got to understand who this Bible is for and what this Bible is about. These scriptures are about Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans and our God, the power of Israel, the power of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Not the power of the white man, not the power of the East Indian man, not the power of the Asian man, the Edomites, the Girgashites, the Ammonites, the Amalekites, the Canaanites, the Perishites, the Ishmaelites. This is the God of the Israelites, our God, our Lord God Almighty, the power of Israel, the power of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. It says, hear now the prayer of the dead Israelites. I'm going to read that again. Verse 4. O Lord Almighty, thou God of Israel, hear now the prayer of the dead Israelites. We're living in 2021. You want to learn to be a good brother? You should want the Most High to hear the prayer of the dead Israelites, the prayer of your fallen brothers and sisters, the prayer of those women and children who were burned alive, the prayer of the heads that these devils were playing soccer with, the prayers of all the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans who were lynched, burned alive, and fed to pigs. All the babies that were fed to alligators. Hear the prayer of the dead. You want to be a good brother and sister? Those people that were killed during Thanksgiving, they were not praying that in 2021 that their children would be celebrating their murder. Read that one more time from the top. Verse 4. O Lord Almighty, thou God of Israel, hear now the prayers of the dead Israelites. Let me tell you something. Our ancestors would be rolling in their graves. They're crying in their graves. They're turning in their graves for every one of their children who are celebrating Thanksgiving. It should take a second to think about that if you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American. Where is the compassion that you're supposed to have for your loved ones? Where is the compassion for your ancestors? Where is the love for your neighbor as Christ commanded? We watched George Floyd be murdered, you understand, on live TV from some devil. George Floyd is dead. Which one of us today are celebrating his death? Which one of us today are celebrating that devil Chauvin, whatever his name was it Derek Chauvin? None of us are eating turkey saying, thank you, Derek Chauvin, for murdering George Floyd. Thank you for murdering Tamir Rice, Eric Gardner. None of us today are eating turkey and cranberries, giving thanks to what these devils do to our people. So why would you in 2021 celebrate and give thanks to the murder of your ancestors? No, we got to hear the prayers of the dead. Christ hears the prayers of the dead. The Most High hears the prayers of the dead. which is why he's coming back with 200 million angels to murder these devils, to wage war on these bastards, to kill and slaughter the heathen and put them in slavery, just as they had us in slavery. The Most High hears the prayers of the dead. And blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans got to learn to do the same. It says, hear now the prayers of the dead Israelites and of their children, which have sinned before thee, and not hearkened unto the voice of their God, for the which caused these plagues cleave unto us. Our ancestors were not obeying the Most High. Our ancestors did not keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, which is why they were plagued as a people, and which is why we are plagued today as a people. We got to learn to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments and break all these curses off of our people. Build the kingdom as Christ told us to, brick by brick, learning to be good brothers and sisters. All right. Let's drop that. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31. Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31. And it reads, envy not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. We got to stop envying our oppressor. We got to stop envying what he has and how he's living. You understand? Not envying his kingdom, his riches, his wealth, his women, his holidays, what he eats, how he lives. We got to stop envying our oppressor, because that's exactly who he is. He is our oppressor. And the Most High understands who he is, which is why he said, choose none of his ways. Eating crab is disgusting. Eating pork is disgusting. Putting Thanksgiving in the face of our Native American brothers, that is disgusting and oppressive and grievous, as the Bible says. It's a grievous thing to make the Native Americans remember every year the slaughter of their people. It's an evil thing to put it in their face and tell them that they should celebrate Thanksgiving. They should focus on the good of Thanksgiving and memorialize their holiday. No, the Most High said, choose none of his ways. Be a good brother. Be a good sister. Honor the dead. Honor your family. Have some compassion on one another. You understand? Choose none of his ways. Leviticus 19 and 17 says, don't hate your brother in your heart. It's a commandment not to hate one another. It's a commandment not to hate your brother. It's a commandment to be brotherly. You understand? Hear the prayers of the dead. 2021, don't remember 9/11. Don't remember all our oppressors' wars and his victories. Don't remember Christopher Columbus, Andrew Jackson, who's responsible for the Trail of Tears and murdering our people. No, be a good brother. Be a good sister. Stop celebrating his feast days. Stop celebrating his holidays. It says in the book of Amos, chapter 5 and verse 20, the Most High hates our feast days, and he will not smell in our solemn assemblies. The Most High hates Thanksgiving. He hates all the murder that was done to our people. He hates all the disgusting acts that were done to our people. The Most High hears the prayers of the dead Israelites. He's not listening to the prayers of the dead Europeans or the prayers of the dead Africans. He hears the prayers of the dead Israelites. He remembers. And that's what Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans need to do. We need to remember the Passover. Remember when the Most High defeated the Egyptians, defeated our slave masters, defeated our enemies. That's what we need to remember. That's what we need to celebrate. That's a feast day that we need to keep. That's glorious in the Most High's eyes. Not Thanksgiving. Let's celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. Right? We got the Feast of Hanukkah coming up, which was our victory over the Greeks. Christ celebrated the Feast of Dedication. You read about that in the Apocrypha. Christ knew what the Apocrypha was. He read out of it. And he honored our dead Israelites. Heard the prayers of the dead Israelites. Why isn't your Christian pastor telling you to be like Christ? Telling you to remember our victory over the Greeks, our victory over the Egyptians. Why isn't your Christian pastor teaching you that? I bet you in every Christian church, your pastor's telling you to celebrate Thanksgiving. And that this is a day to thank God. Thank God for everything you have. You Christian leaders are disgusting. You Muslim leaders are disgusting. Right? Let's drop that. Let's go to the book of 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 3. Well, Slovakia. First Peter chapter 4 and verse 3. What does it say? For the time past, Slovakia, verse 3. For the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles. Let me tell you something. The disciples understood we should not be following these heathen nations, the will of the heathen. Disciples understood this. It says, when we have walked in lasciviousness, lust, Slovakia, lasciviousness is like every foul thing, just disgusting ways, filthy ways of living. Lusts, excess of wine, Understand? The disciples said not to be a drunk, not to be an animal and follow every desire that goes through your mind, everything you lust after. Not to be drunks, getting pissed drunk and pissing on ourselves. The disciples said, don't do this. Revelings. What's revelings? Parties. All these filthy parties. All these disgusting things that go on in this kingdom. You understand? The disciples understood this. We shouldn't be out partying every single night, going to these different sex parties and all these different filthy things that go on in this kingdom. Getting drunk and getting high. These things are against the Most High. Banquetings and abominable idolatries. You understand? The disciples of Christ understood. Don't keep these holidays of our oppressors. Don't keep these feasts of our oppressors. Don't worship their gods. Don't live like them. Come out of her, my people, like it says in Revelations. Come out of Babylon and her ways. Don't follow this oppressor's ways. Don't worship his holidays. Don't celebrate Christmas. The disciples understood this. Right? Matter of fact, let's go to Paul. Right? Who every Christian pastor loves to quote so much. I think it's Romans 1 and verse 21. Let's go to Romans chapter 1 and verse 25. It reads, who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshiped and served the creature more than the creator? Who did this? Who changed the truth of God into a lie? Who told you that Christ was a white man? Who told you that you should be celebrating Thanksgiving? That you shouldn't be hearing the prayers of the dead Israelites? That you shouldn't be remembering the history of your ancestors? That's what these scriptures are. These scriptures are the history of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Your oppressor is walking on the bones, the blood, the murder, the graves of the Native Indian brothers and sisters. They're walking on the bones of our brothers and sisters, and they are proud. They do it with honor. They wear a badge of honor and commemorate their victories over the slaughter of our people. Paul said, who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshiped the creature over the creator? Your oppressor is worshiping the harvest god Demetrius, whatever that god's name is. And he came over to North and South Central America and told you to do the same. He forced it on our people. You understand? These things go against the Most High, and these things are not brotherly. It is not brotherly. It is not sisterly to be celebrating Thanksgiving. You understand? Christ told us to love the Most High with all our heart, all our soul, all our mind. This is how you be a good brother. Put the Most High first. Don't put some Olympian goddess before the Most High. Don't put your oppressor before the Most High. Don't put anything before the Most High. Love the Most High with all your heart, your mind, your strength, your soul. You understand? Because if you would do that, you would learn to love yourself. The Most High loves the children of Israel. We are his special children, his chosen people. And he commands us to love ourselves, not to make peace with these devils. And number 2, to love our neighbors as ourselves, to have compassion on one another. Have compassion on our dead ancestors. Have compassion on the dead, the slaughtered Native Americans, blacks, Hispanics, all the murder that has gone on to our people. Have some compassion on our people. Have some compassion for what they're doing to us. Have compassion on one another and gather together. Don't gather with your oppressor. Don't make peace with your oppressor. Make peace with one another. Understand? And with that, we're going to end Tuesday's Night Brotherhood class. Let's clap it up. All right, this is I.S.U.P.K's Tuesday's Night Brotherhood class, No Cowards Canada. You're going to give the I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K, which was started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18, verse 21, and Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 to 10. Means tenth in the Hebrew, ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations. Salakia. It's the Feast of Dedication. Give me one moment so I can pull up that date. Upcoming holy convocations. We have the Feast of the Dedication, also known as Hanukkah in the Hebrew. It's the 25th day of the 9th month by the space of 8 days, which will be Sunday, the 28th of November, 2021. You can read about this in the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verses 52 to verse 61. That said, we're going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers and a courtesy salute to the sisters. And make sure before you leave this class, make sure you hit the sign out link. I'm going to post the sign out link in the chat right after we're done saluting the brothers and sisters. Men of Israel, I imagine, which means stand. We're going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers. Men of Israel, I imagine Shabbat. I imagine Barak. Yah Bashim Yahshai Barakatham. Yad Yamata. We're going to give a courtesy salute to the sisters. Sar Akwathian, which means turn and face the sisters. Men of Israel, I imagine Shabbat. I imagine Barak. Yahweh Shamar Alathan Bashim Yahshai. Yad Yamata. Class dismissed.
I ain't back to die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The hope was given to the hands of devils. Then we seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. Looking to the eyes of the devil. I ain't have to die to meet the devil.
I remember I was only 13 when I met the demon. Gave me a deuce and a bundle of cocaine. Told me to sell to my people, make sure you keep it clean. And then he tried to show you, make sure that you leave him leaking. He said,
I'ma hold you down when problems pop up.
how you got me moving this dope? Want me in lockup? He said,
Don't you want the Benz vertical with the top up?
Yeah.
Stop, bitch, you get in that kitchen, let it rock up. Bitches love the dope, boy, especially when it's pop up. I know you know
you
rhyme.
the plug from by the block up.
I'll tell you a little secret, make sure that you keep your mouth shut. Rhyme got a Lexus, crib in Philly in Texas. Trips with the Bahamas, just got a whip for his mama. He fucking up the commas, be honest, he seen decent though.
I hear you, but I just seen Ron about a week ago. Fat, he ain't looking too good. His knees is kind of slow. I asked him why the struggle. He got stuck up for his bundle, but them 6-hour tips in his legs what made him crumble.
Bitch, he got a house with mama is living good.
Said the feds took it all. He right back in the hood. I see you try to play me. You gave us crack in the 80s. Made us abort our babies and making hoes out of ladies. I know you got me gravy, but Satan, you must be crazy. It's gonna take more than cause one to amaze me. I seen